Life's a gamble, I roll dice. Bet against me, I roll twice. I done beat the odds my whole life. I said I'm ready for greatness.
Shit, dang.
Welcome back to another episode of the Autonomous Podcast. I am your host, as always, Damian Jackson, me and the AI, and maybe Neo. I think she's underneath the bed somewhere, so she might make a special guest appearance. All right, let's get into it. Today we're going to talk about race. Why? Because America loves race. And before we kind of get into the modern day sense, let's take it back to 1492 when Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue. That little bullshit ass story they try to teach you and tell you in elementary school. I always thought about it too. I was like, why do y'all have to tell us this way, right? Because what we know as America is the British colonies, right? The 13 colonies and stuff like that. But Christopher Columbus was Italian, Portuguese, Spanish, wherever the fuck he was. And that's who he was working for. But slavery in America tends to be the general consensus when that started around that time. And that is when the word race was really start to use. They used race to justify why they enslaved people, particularly people of darker skin complexion, right? Black people. And when it comes to that, that has always made me just kind of think like, why would they use race? Well, being older, have been in the military, understanding propaganda and seeing the propaganda that goes on today, I know that race was just a propaganda narrative. They didn't give a fuck. They were going to do it to whoever they could do it to. And slavery has been done to everyone throughout human history. I don't want to say everyone, but every ethnic group throughout human history, every culture, wherever the fuck you want to say. Doing the math, everyone alive today has some type of ancestor that was connected to slavery in the sense that their ancestors were slaves. The word slave itself, Slavic, comes from the Slavic tribes, slaves, because they were enslaved. Eastern Europe, they were enslaved. So Poland, Ukraine, they were enslaved by Christians, Muslims, Arabs, North Africa. And I know you'll be like, oh, well, North Africans, they're not really black. Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. So everyone of every skin tone has been involved in slavery in the sense of owner or slave. Slave master or the slave. But because in America, we focus on white and black, you have to ask yourself, why is that? Well, no one's white. No one is black. So if no one is white and no one is black, then how we get to the point of, oh yeah, it's only black people that were enslaved in America. You can look up the facts. You can do your own research and see that all different various ethnic groups in America were enslaved. The indigenous people of America that was already here for thousands of years that were also black. That was also black because people have been sailing around the world for thousands of years, long before Christopher Columbus. I know y'all are stupid because y'all don't even try to look this shit up yourself because you don't care, but we'll get to that. So even the natives, the indigenous people that are already here, right? The white people, the Irish, the people of the British Isles that came over and stuff in slavery, indentured servants, or just straight up slavery, or prisoners, wherever the case was, however they got into enslavement, wherever was the so-called legal justification for it, because that's all it comes down to, legal justification and social conditioning, trying to make people feel good about the fucked up choices that they were partaking in or, not denouncing and whatever. So yes, so white people, black people, Asian people, wherever the fucking skin color context you want to say. It's interesting because when we say Asian people as a race, Asian is not a race. When we talk about race, we only really mention white and black. And then after that, we don't go yellow, red, blue. No, we don't do colors. Then after we go white and black, we say Hispanic, Spanish, Mexican, Asian, Chinese. We go into countries. It's funny how race has just become this general term to be used to label other types of people. And I always think it's funny too as well because I always see the bigger picture. When it comes to the fact that we're all stuck on this planet together, we're all Homo sapiens sapiens, we're all human beings. You might come from that landmass, but my mindset is your ass still on this giant landmass, water and everything else on it, bitch. You're still on this planet. Now, when we start talking about aliens and interdimensional beings and maybe they come from another planet, now we can talk about race. But we're not there yet, at least another, we're in 4 years. So the whole idea of race in America, right, is supposed to stem from the whole concept of white and black, a concept which they put onto us. Social conditioning propaganda, because there's no white people and there's no black people. I actually find it that being called black to me is a derogatory term because you're not black. A little child knows they're not black. The outside world has to tell them that they're black. So when you say you're a black person, you identify as black, you're allowing yourself to be subjugated. You got to call for what it is. A lot of this is about not a lack of accountability, a lack of empowerment. If I say black empowerment, what I'm saying is I'm not letting so-called white people or any of this shit have power over me because my power comes from the eternal, infinite, conscious being. We're all powerful. It's internal. So why would I let the outside world try to tell me who the fuck I am? That's stupid. Or you're just weak. Or you're afraid. Or you have no true sense of self-worth. You have no true sense of identity because you let people tell you who the fuck you are. So when we talk about slavery in America, it's always about black people. When we're in school learning that shit in America, in American history, it's about black people. Why am I watching Roots in the 3rd or 4th grade? And Roots didn't even occur historically in the manner in which they say that he did. Yet again, another fucking story. So what I know about slavery only comes from the white people, the white people's books, the white people in the institution, right? By y'all words, white people. And I'm supposed to just accept it. Because what I know from slavery from black people, I don't know slavery from black people. I only know slavery from school. You have to think about that. You only know about slavery from the same institutions that were behind slavery in America. Right? Are there the ancestral institutions, rather, the generational institutions? It's about a power dynamic. I had someone in my comments say, oh, well, racism is based on a power dynamic of white people in power and stuff. No, you think white people are in power. Their government, their laws don't mean shit to me. I'm my own conscious free will being. Now, I might do something that has an alignment with their laws, but my choice is always of my own. You got to think about that. I'm not going to rob, cheat, and steal because that's who I choose to be because my morality comes from myself and my connection to the source light, the one supreme, the one conscious being, not supreme, the one conscious being. But when I say, race is this or race is that, and when I say black people are racist and stuff like that, black people are like, oh, black people can't be racist. Well, they can't be racist because historically, white people were in charge and they were doing this and making laws and they enslaved black people and stuff. So racism is going to be for them because they're from a position of power. Wow, you just sound weak and pathetic. That's how I spend it in my head. That's what it sounds like to me. That's how I felt. I felt like you. But I asked myself, wait, why the fuck? That doesn't make sense. He's like, to me, if you're racist, it's because you're focused on race. It's not necessarily positive or negative. It could be neutral. Hey, those Asian people, they're really smart. Racist. Hey, black people are really athletic. Racist. Hey, White people smell like wet dog when they're in the rain. Racist. Right? Hey, white people have tons of money. Racist. Right? These are racist statements because you're focusing on race. It's not that hard. Don't try to switch up the definition and stuff and make up some other shit. It just is what it is. But America loves race. And the slavery context and all that stuff, they use that psychological conditioning to make you have an emotional attachment. Why are you alive and you have no connection to slavery, regardless of your skin tone, but you feel the trauma? And then you'll say, oh, well, the scientists and the research shows that, you experience genetic trauma. But just do the math, everyone alive has some type of connection to slavery, whether they're a slave or the slave master. Doesn't matter. Everyone, all types of ethnic groups throughout human history has been enslaved. Period. And usually when you're enslaved, the treatment's not good. But what is slavery? You got called for what it is. Cheap labor. That's all it's ever been. It's a business transaction. And when you talk about the so-called transatlantic slave trade, is it? Slave trades were already going on for thousands and thousands of years. Doesn't matter from one landmass to the other landmass across one ocean or river. It's still the same concept. It's still the same thing. It's who was ever in a position of so-called power, or really, it's whoever was giving up the power. Your Ben Crumps, your Al Sharptons, your Jesse Jack stuff, the race hustlers, people like that, they're the real sellouts. But y'all call me an Uncle Tom, a coon, and a sellout. Oh, he love the white people and all that other stuff. But they will get up in your face and try to make everything about race. And we'll get to that point. But they'll sit there and try to make everything about race. And what does that do? Does that empower so-called black people? No, it doesn't. It belittles you. Is you always looking for an scapegoat? Is you always looking to be like, oh no, I can't get nowhere because of the white man. Growing up, all black people, right? Black family, all that stuff. How many times I have heard throughout my life, well, the white people got this, the white people got that, the white people all got that. And I'm looking around, I'm like, what white people? Because I know the poor white people. When I see the homeless people on the street, they tend to be white. When I see a drug addict woman getting beat up and stuff and everything, she seems to be white. Hell, my favorite rapper is Eminem. Where is he? White. From the trailer parks. Poverty. So people act like being white was like a blessing or something like that. Like, oh, you're white, you ain't got no issues. Everyone has issues. And if you have issues because of your skin tone, it's because y'all all agree to this shit. The collective, y'all stupid mindset agrees to this shit. But because of all the different ethnic groups, the Irish, people from the British Isles, white people were enslaved in America, the indigenous people of America, dark-skinned were enslaved in America, the Mongolians that crossed over and all the other stuff enslaved in America. Everybody's enslaved in America. Now what? Oh, well, the black people are treated the worst. No, everyone's treated bad. Period. I like that. You got to get out of your head. The social conditioning in which black people think that their attachments to slavery is some type of generational thing and that's passed on and stuff is bullshit, because only thing I know about slavery has come from school. The same white people that y'all say enslaved everybody are the same ones that are making the books and we're going to institutions and learn. And how we get to that point? Oh, well, they took over and they beat everybody and stuff. No. Partly true, partly factual, but also black people along the way was like, fuck this shit. Yeah, take them away. Why? Because there were black slave owners. So there were black slave owners, there were black people that owned land and stuff, there were black people that were not enslaved, that were just regular ass fucking people, also part of the government stuff in the early 1700s, stuff like that. But you don't know about those things. Right? Go down a rabbit hole of black nobility. I've been going down that rabbit hole lately, and it's been very interesting. But it makes so much sense. Because black people have already been traveling around the world for thousands of years. Skin tones switch up and all this stuff. And really what it comes down to when it's a black and white, when they try to create a divide, it's because the people in the power, people in position of so-called power, they love the divide. They know what that means. They know how powerful and impactful it is to have people divided, because if I'm trying to collect all resources, I'm trying to manage all stuff, control everything, I don't need you to know that I'm doing this, right? The so-called 1%. So while the 99% are divided and not realizing that they are the majority in the collective, the 1% go off and do whatever. And you know what? I don't blame them. I used to get mad at them. I don't get mad at them no more because it makes so much fucking sense. I'm like, you know what? You got it. You got it. Because these fucking idiots allow that shit, right? Because, oh man, black this, white this. Oh, they gotta do this, they gotta do that. Right? Race this, race that. Oh, he's from China. He's from the Middle East. He's from whatever and stuff. But it's like, wait a minute, that's not race. That's a nationality, ain't it? Oh, don't worry, because race is just used for every fucking thing now. If you're a different group of people from another group of people, that's a race. Shit doesn't even make sense. You can't make it make sense. That's why everyone gets emotionally triggered, but social condition, because I said I'm watching Roots in school. Social conditioning. Now I'm mad at the white person, they ain't got nothing to do with the shit. And they're looking at me like, oh, so y'all are a slave? Because I'm white? And they're like, the fuck I got to do with this shit? I don't even know what's going on. And then you say, oh, well, the slaves, they weren't able to read and write. They weren't able to do none of stuff. But yeah, here we are reading and writing. So there's a disconnect somewhere. My ancestors were slaves and stuff. At some point, my ancestors were allowed to read and write and own homes and work and all this other stuff. From what I know from my family, what I've been told, I don't hear no slavery shit. They say black people are slaves, and then they just attach themselves to it. That's it. There's no facts. There's no records. There's no evidence. There's no evidence of us coming from Africa. There's no evidence. Oh, majority of black people in the South have heard the same thing. Oh, you got Native in your blood. We got Native in our family. Because black people were already here in America for a long time. Now, to switch gears and bring it to the modern day sense, we know where the race comes from. We know it's a propaganda term, right? We know they only use race to justify what they were doing. They just it's a sales pitch to get the other people, the Portuguese, the Spaniards, the common folks to go along with it. Hey, we're better than them because, they're uncivilized savages and they're not under the Christian law. They're not under the Islamic law. Oh, look, they're darker skin tone. Oh, they're black. So they're not under that. Now, in the modern sense, people are still caught up in that through social conditioning, which black people continue to pass on the bullshit. One lie turns into another lie. And then I always thought, like, why? Why would you sit here and be a part of this? Why would you go along with this? The reality is, for some people, it's easier. Because everyone else around them, they're accepting of it. Because when you speak out, if you're my skin complexion, you speak out like this, you're Uncle Tom, you're a coon, you love white people, all this other shit. And all I'm saying is, nah, I'm just not going to accept y'all's story. And y'all telling me black people got so bad and stuff, I'm looking around, I'm like, well, wait a minute. I mean, I got my house and stuff, right? I got to pay a loan, I got a mortgage and stuff and everything. I joined the military and stuff. Oh, you got to join the military. You got to join the white man's army in order to get this. No, I just chose that route. I could have did it a whole bunch of other ways. Hell, I got the house, got bought, and invested in crypto. It ain't got nothing to do with white people. Black people, all that stuff, they ain't got nothing to do with race, right? So if I look at it from that context of, well, if all that stuff happened in slavery, all this other stuff happened, everything was so bad, but now I'm here as a black person in America, and I'm able to have ownership and have all this other stuff, doesn't that mean we progress out of that and that's a good thing? Why do people want to always have a negative image when they think of race in America? in terms of, oh, look, we're still doing the same thing. I remember someone saying, oh, no, Black people still got struggles. They're dealing with issues today. Now, this Black person. Why is that? Am I an anomaly? I do think I am in a lot of sense, but I don't allow myself to be weak-minded. I don't want to just say victim, but what am I a victim of, right? The reality is some people do not want to empower themselves. Some people want mediocrity. Some people want to be pushed down or appear to be pushed down so they can have justification for their lack of achievements, for their failure. And that's on them. I ain't got nothing to do with that. Because I look around, I'm like, hey, y'all say y'all want a Black president, you got one. Half Black, but you got one, right? You want Black people in legislation, in Congress, and all these different positions of so-called power. You want Black CL, you want that shit, it's here. But you ignore it. And you act like it doesn't exist. So I have to question, you're saying it's slavery and all that stuff, 40 years of oppression, all that other stuff, but that's not true. You're not the only people to deal with slavery. You cannot denounce our trauma. No. What I'm saying is everyone has something. What are you going to do about it? I'm not worried about the collective in that sense because I already said the collective has been social conditioned to be fucking thinking a certain way. I'm saying, what are you, the individual, going to do about it? Oh man, Black people have a hard time. I don't give a fuck. I'm trying to figure out how I can surpass, how I can overcome, how I can achieve. Right? Because I see poor white people and they ain't got shit and they're gonna die with no shit. So them being white wasn't no fucking bonus at all. It didn't help them at all. It ain't no fucking advantage. Maybe in a different time frame, maybe based on where you lived at, maybe based on what your parents did before. That's why you ain't got shit. Right? Oh my God, accountability. Because it is what it is. Nobody wants to hear that, but it is about accountability. So when you talk about modern day race in America, and they say, oh, the same thing's still going on. Yeah, if you want to see it that way, it is going on. And this episode was inspired by the Nolan Wells case because I've been on social media posting about Nolan Wells and everything, but I saw it when it got on the internet and stuff, and it was talking about Nolan Wells being missing. I saw the first image. Nolan Wells, a Black boy, a young Black man, and then 3 other white dudes, right? Same age or about the same age. And they're saying these are his friends. And I already knew where people were going to go with that. God, I already know how Black people are. See, you shouldn't be hanging out with them white people. Meanwhile, you hang out about the Black people and they kill you, no one says anything because they don't give a fuck about that. They never will. They never will. They need white people to be the bad guy because if they're not the bad guy, who the fuck are they? They ain't got nobody to blame their shit on. They ain't got nobody to blame their problem. They need that narrative. Why is that? You, the individual, have to ask yourself why that is. Because I answer that for myself. Why do I need white people to be the bad guy? Why do I need them to be so powerful? I'm like, you know what? That's stupid. Ain't nobody fucking powerful over me. I'm connected to the source light. I'm connected to the one conscious being. I am infinite. My power comes from within. Why the fuck do I look at some of y'all out here and be like, oh, you're more powerful than me? You gotta be fucking kidding me. That's insane. You know how dumb that is? But for some of y'all, it's not. So with Nolan Wells, I'm sitting there, I'm like, they're gonna make this about race. And sure enough, they made it about race. And I didn't think the parents were gonna go into making it about race, but the parents went and made it about race. And they said, we didn't want to think about race, but, we told them you can't be so trusting of people and stuff and everything. And then you bring in Ben Crump, race hustling ass motherfucker, and then you bring in Al Sharpton, where the fuck his name is, racist. Those are people are racist, right? Black people can be racist because it's not about power dynamic bullshit. It's about you looking and seeing race. you racist fucking person, right? And like I said, it doesn't have to be negative, doesn't have to be positive. It can also be neutral. But it's you recognizing the race, as opposed to recognizing just the objectivity of all the individual, seeing what happened in that case. I just don't see. I do see when they talk about the aliens and interdimensional beings and other people visiting, until people really start to realize that, oh, we the human beings, the Homo sapien, we're on this planet Earth. Your nationality, all those things are kind of fun to talk about. Oh, we're from this culture, all this stuff, but like it don't really mean shit. Oh, we're from this culture and we listen to this music. Oh, I'm sorry, your drum's slightly different, at a slightly different tempo. Oh, the horn that you blow out is a little bit different than the horn that he blow out of. Oh, the dance that you do is slightly different than the dance that he does. Or the rhythm that you hear is a little bit different than their rhythm. Oh, the food that you eat, you fry. The food they eat, they steam. Like, you're still eating chicken and fucking rice. What are y'all talking about? You're still eating fucking beans. You're still eating fucking lettuce and vegetables and shit. So people act as if there's this huge separation as opposed to trying to see the oneness. But it's because social conditioning. You've been told to see it this way. America loves race. Years and generations of social conditioning, the propaganda, fucking masterful. Fucking masterful. I'm not gonna lie, I tip my hat off to them. I respect them that shit because, yeah, is it evil and fucked up? Of course it is. But objectively looking at it, I respect it. Because that's amazing that you can sit there and just sit and control generations of people off of a bullshit ass narrative. But people need this because they need a divide. They need a bad guy. They need a good guy. They need these things so they can talk about. They need that built-in excuse to have for, that's why I didn't do what I was able to do because of this. As opposed to focusing on what you can control. I always tell this to my kids. Focus on what you can control. And the universe around you will align with that, right? The universe will shift to align with you. You will shift to align with the universe. You will find that alignment based on what you're doing internally. The work is done within you, on the spiritual sense, not this physical shit. But y'all love y'all skin tone so much because you have no identity. You have nothing outside of that. You need their labels to give you a sense of identity, and you need to feel a part of other people or some type of collectiveness because you have nothing on your own. That's just the truth, man. I've been there. I felt that way before. Not as much as y'all, but I felt that way before. But one thing I refuse and I cannot hold on to, the fact that I have to say what I'm thinking. And a lot of times when I say what I'm thinking, that ostracizes me from everybody. I know my friends and family. I know people that have known me over the years, close to me. I know they don't think the way I think. And I know when I say some of these things, I come off as weird and crazy. I don't like that shit. I distance myself from them too, right? Because you're not about to call me weird or crazy for my thoughts. Because I know where the place I'm coming from. I'm coming from a place of love. I'm coming from a place of authenticity. I'm coming from a place of truth. And I'm coming from a place of empowerment. You might not like what I'm saying, but you have to ask yourself, why are you triggered by what I'm saying? Because I can provide you the facts and evidence, you're still not going to accept it. I can tell you black people were owned by slaves, right? By white people, you'll be okay. But when I tell you black people own slaves, you're like, huh? Yeah, but if there weren't that many black people, the fuck? Your whole statement, I just destroyed. And instead of you recognizing contradiction in their stories and narratives, you want to be like, well, wasn't that many black people. Or I say there's white slaves, you're like, oh, well, there wasn't that many white slaves. Well, they weren't treated the same as the black people. So there's something wrong with you. There is something wrong with you that you have to figure out. Because I hear contradictory statements or contradicting statements. I'm like, you know what? Something ain't right. I step away and I try to look at the objective side of it all, the objective truth. I don't sit here and try to cling on to that narrative The emotional attachment that people have to race is a fucking mental illness. By design. Plain and fucking simple. And you know it. You know it. And until you're able to break out of those psychological and emotional shackles, you're still a slave. Stupid motherfucker, you're still a slave, right? That's the shit I have to tell myself. So I say this out loud because all the stuff that I'm saying is the same thing I have told myself throughout the years of my life. I'm 39, so I've been telling myself this stuff. And do I still sometimes have a racial bias? Do I sometimes think of those things? Yes, I do. But I try to stop it real quick because I know those are not my actual thoughts. I know I've been told to think like this throughout my life, not just by family or friends or whatever stuff, but by the world around me. But I also know that they are programming us to think like this to keep us in the state of consciousness that we're in. And how do we take back, or how do we regain control of our power? You recognize you as an individual are infinite, that you are powerful, that you are amazing, that you can do whatever. That it doesn't matter about none of these superficial bullshit labels that they try to put on you. Doesn't matter about your skin tone, which is completely fucking damn near irrelevant. Right? Because if we were all mixing together, we'll look like the people out of Cape Verde. Like, that's why they're so beautiful looking, because there's a lot of mixturing. Because we are one human species, we need to mix up as much as possible. Because that's how we're going to get the most out of our genetics as a species. But y'all want to think about that. Y'all want to be in y'all bullshit ass collective, superficial categories that makes no goddamn sense, that holds us all back. It's detrimental to the evolution, the advancement of the species. But America loves race. America loves race. America have a black president, and they'll still be like, oh, this place is racist. America has Trump as president, oh, Trump is racist. But when Trump was a Democrat, Trump was not racist. So sometime within the past 20 years or whatever, Trump became racist. No, he's always been like that. No, but y'all didn't give a fuck when we was in everybody hip hop, all the rappers' videos and shit, right? When we was on fucking Home Alone and shit, when we was on TV and everything and stuff, right? When we was on the WWE, WWF and shit, do wrestling matches and everything. He wasn't racist then, right? He was with the Clintons though. He wasn't racist then, but now he's racist now. Or since 2016, we became a Republican. Y'all understand how racist that statement is, that if a white person is a Republican, they're racist. You are a part of the problem if your mindset is that way. How do we stop racism? Change your fucking mindset. How about we stop with the labels? Even for right now, I'll give y'all, if you want to divide up by countries, I'll give y'all that, because at least that somewhat has something to do with some type of internal sense as far as ideologies or how you think you should be governed. But autonomous podcast, I don't believe in no government. I self-govern, but separate conversation. But America loves race. So no matter the context, America will find a way to put race in it. It's not the white people, it's not the black people, it's all you fucking people. Y'all find a way to put race in it. And as I see with the Nolan Wells case, when the friend of Nolan Wells, Javon Williams, said, no, it's not a race thing, after he was asked by the question in an interview with TMZ, he said, no, it's not race. A lot of us got white friends. It's kind of how it is around here and stuff, because where we're at and everything is not a big deal. They still made it about race. Right? The parents didn't like his son necessarily being around a bunch of white people, but the guy met at school and environment and neighborhood stuff were around a bunch of white people. You got to make that make sense. I'm just saying. I'm rambling and stuff. I can keep going on and on and on, but America loves race. Y'all fucking figure that problem out. I'm not with y'all. I'm out.
Life's a gamble, I roll dice. Bet against me, I roll twice. I done beat the odds my whole life. I said I'm ready for
Talking
greatness.
shit, Dave.